Subject: ex-wife wanted separation. Turns out she wanted a hall pass to cheat. Hello, true story. My name is Adrian Mackey, and first off, I want to thank you for giving men like me an outlet to share our stories. I've been following your channel for a while, and I can't tell you how much it helps hearing other guys' experiences. You've got men from all over the world writing in, and every time I listen, I find myself shaking my head because it feels like the same playbook is being run in different households. When I realized my own story was heading in that direction, I thought, all right, Adrian, time to put it on paper and share it. So let me take you back and walk you through it. The first red flag: I need a separation. The day my wife asked me for a separation was the day I knew something was wrong. I can't even explain it properly, just this gut-level alarm that went off in my chest. She sat me down at the dining table, her hands folded like she was about to deliver a business proposal instead of talking about our marriage. She looked me right in the eyes and said, "I think I need some time apart. Just a temporary separation to clear my head." Now, let me tell you, I've been through enough in life to know that when someone uses the words temporary and separation together, what they're really saying is, I want to test drive someone else without the guilt of cheating. My alarm bells weren't just ringing, they were blaring like the fire alarms in a high-rise building. I didn't get angry, not right away. Instead, I looked at her and said, "All right, if that's where your head is at, then let me see your phone." Her face dropped. It was like I asked her to hand me the keys to a vault she'd been hiding for years. She stuttered, tried to deflect. "Why do you want to see my phone? Don't you trust me?" You know the usual lines cheaters rehearse in front of the mirror, but I wasn't budging. Finally, she handed it over, probably thinking she had been slick enough to hide her tracks. But here's the thing about people who lie for a living. They're never as clever as they think. Spectrum and Duke Energy. Now here's where it gets laughable. I open up her messages and I see not one, but two active threads. One labeled Spectrum and another labeled Duke Energy. I had to pause and ask myself, when in the history of humanity has an internet company or an energy company texted back and forth like a high school crush? Who in the world has long-standing conversations with the power company? I didn't even need to scroll deep. Right there, plain as day, were the kinds of messages no utility company is sending you. Wish you were here last night. Can't stop thinking about you. When can we meet again? Yeah, sure, Spectrum. Come fix my Wi-Fi and whisper sweet nothings in my wife's ear while you're at it. At that moment, I knew exactly what was going on. She wasn't asking for separation to clear her head. No, she was asking because she had already been out there doing God knows what with God knows who, and she wanted to keep it going without me breathing down her neck. That was it for me. I didn't need a private investigator. I didn't need screenshots. I didn't need to play detective for 6 months. The proof was right there. Spectrum and Duke Energy had somehow turned into side dudes. Straight to the lawyer. The next morning, I made an appointment with the lawyer. There was no point in dragging it out. Once I know the truth, I don't stick around and negotiate with betrayal. My lawyer asked if I wanted to gather more evidence, maybe wait it out so the case would be stronger in court. I told him, "Listen, she's already guilty in my book. I don't care if we walk into the courtroom with one screenshot or a whole archive. I'm not trying to win the Pulitzer Prize for investigative journalism. I just want my freedom." How we met. The Toastmasters meeting. Now, before you think I should have seen this coming, let me rewind to how we met. It wasn't in some sketchy nightclub or on a hookup app. No, I met her at a Toastmasters meeting. If you're not familiar, Toastmasters is a group for people who want to get better at public speaking. I was invited to give a presentation on professionalism and communication in the corporate office. I showed up in a sharp suit, ready to talk about something I'd been practicing for years. She was sitting in the audience, a regular member at the time. She came up to me after my presentation, complimented me on how confident I sounded, and asked if I ever mentored people on speaking. That conversation turned into coffee, which turned into dinner, which turned into dating. I thought meeting her in an environment like that meant I was starting off with someone who had values, ambition, and respect. She wasn't some party girl or someone looking for a quick fling. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The early marriage. We got married about a year and a half after we met. The first couple of years were good. Solid even. We had fun together. We laughed a lot. We traveled a little when we could. The one heavy thing hanging over us was trying to conceive. We wanted a family badly, but after our first attempt ended in miscarriage, it hit us both like a freight train. She went into a depression, and I won't lie, so did I. We went to therapy together, tried to work through it, but the grief just lingered. Looking back, I think that's when cracks started to form. Instead of us becoming stronger through the struggle, she started drifting. At the time, I didn't see it as clearly as I do now. I thought she just needed more time to heal. Turns out she was already healing in other men's beds. Back to the separation request. So when she asked me for that separation, it wasn't out of the blue. Deep down, I think she had been planning it for months. She probably thought I'd roll over and agree, let her find herself while I sat at home like a fool. But the look on her face when I opened her phone and saw Spectrum and Duke Energy, that was priceless. She went pale, then red, then tried to play the waterworks card. Adrian, please don't overreact. It's not what it looks like. Let me tell you something. Anytime someone says it's not what it looks like, it's exactly what it looks like. The begging. After I filed for divorce, the begging started. First, it was calm. Can we talk? Can we go to counseling? Can we start fresh? Then it turned into panic. Please don't leave me. I'll never do it again. I swear it was just a mistake. The kicker came when she admitted, flat out, that she thought I would never notice. She really believed she could rename guys in her phone as utility companies and I'd be none the wiser. Imagine being that arrogant. And if that wasn't enough, she embarrassed herself in front of my entire family. She showed up at a cookout, uninvited, crying and begging for forgiveness in front of my mother, my siblings, my cousins, talking about how she made a mistake and how she'd do anything to get me back. My mom pulled me aside afterward and said, "Son, don't you dare take her back. If she can humiliate herself like that, imagine what else she's capable of." That sealed it. Where I'll leave off, for now. I could keep going, but I'll end this part here, because what happened after the divorce papers were filed turned into its own circus. She started calling me nonstop, texting me at all hours, sending me messages saying if I didn't take her back, she was going to take a bunch of pills and end it all. I'll save that for part 2, because that's a story in itself. The manipulation, the threats, the dramatics. You wouldn't believe the lengths she went to just to try to drag me back into her mess. But for now, I'll end with this. The moment I saw Spectrum and Duke Energy in her phone, I knew my marriage was over. And honestly, I've never been more grateful for a red flag waving so clearly in my face. Thanks for reading True Story. I'll be back with part 2 soon. Ex-wife threatened to end it all if I didn't take her back. Hello, True Story. It's Adrian Mackey again. First off, thanks for putting my first email out there. Watching it get read aloud and seeing the comments from other men around the world. It was both sobering and healing. I realized real quick that I'm not the only man who's been played for a fool, and I'm not the only one who walked away and found peace. Like I promised, I'm back with part 2. If part 1 was about discovering the betrayal, part 2 is about the aftermath, the storm that came after I filed for divorce. And let me tell you, the storm was loud, dramatic, manipulative, and exhausting. The bombardment begins. The divorce papers were barely filed before the calls started rolling in. First it was once or twice a day, then it was 10, 15, 20 missed calls stacked up like she was trying to set a Guinness World Record. My phone would light up at all hours of the night, midnight, 2 a.m., 4:30 a.m. You'd think she was calling the fire department, the way she was blowing up my phone. The voicemails. Oh, the voicemails. One minute she'd be crying so hard I could barely understand her. The next she'd be angry, yelling into the phone like I'd stolen something from her. Then she'd switch back to sweet calm, whispering about how she couldn't live without me. It was like listening to someone audition for every possible role in a soap opera. And then came the texts, paragraphs on paragraphs. The infamous, "If you don't take me back, I'm going to swallow pills" text came about 3 weeks in. That one nearly made me throw my phone across the room. The pills threat. That text read, "Adrian, if you don't answer me, I'm just going to take this whole bottle of pills. I can't live without you. You'll never forgive yourself if something happens to me. Let me stop here and say something important. Mental health is serious. Suicidal threats are serious, but I also know manipulation when I see it. And this wasn't her first rodeo with using extreme theatrics to try to get her way. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I called her sister. I said, "Hey, your sister just sent me this text. You might want to check on her." Her sister sighed and said, "Oh God, not this again." That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a cry for help. This was a cry for control. Of course, later that night, she called again and admitted she hadn't actually taken anything. She just wanted me to understand how serious she was about getting me back. Serious about getting me back? Lady, you were serious about sleeping with Spectrum and Duke Energy. That's what you were serious about. Family drama. She didn't just stop at blowing up my phone. No, she tried to pull my family into it too. She called my mother, my brother, even one of my cousins she had only met once at Thanksgiving. She told my mom, "I made a mistake, but I know Adrian still loves me. Please tell him to give me another chance." My mom, bless her soul, told her, "Honey, if you loved him, you wouldn't have been laying up with utility companies." She told my brother, "I know you care about Adrian. Can't you talk to him for me?" My brother laughed and said, "Talk to him about what? He's already made up his mind. You had your chance." The nerve of her, trying to use my own family against me. It only made them rally around me even harder. The drive-bys. One of the wildest parts was when she started showing up uninvited. She'd park down the street from my condo, waiting for me to come outside. Once I caught her sitting in her car at 1 o'clock in the morning, just staring at my window. I walked out and said, "What in the world are you doing here?" She burst into tears and said, "I just wanted to see you. I didn't know what else to do." I told her, "What you're doing is trespassing. Go home." The next day, I installed security cameras. If she wanted to act like a stalker, I was going to have evidence. The switch to anger. When she realized the begging wasn't working, she switched gears to anger. The text changed from, "I love you, please take me back," to, "You'll regret this. No one will ever love you like I do. You'll end up alone." I laughed when I read those. I'd rather end up alone than with a woman who thinks naming her side pieces after power companies is peak genius. But the threats kept escalating. She'd say things like, "If I see you with another woman, I swear I'll lose it." Or, "Don't think you're walking away clean. I'll ruin your reputation." I documented every single one of those messages. Screenshots backed up in the cloud, because I knew the day might come when she'd try to drag me into court and spin a story. The reflection point. Here's where I want to pause and reflect for anyone reading this who might be going through something similar. Cheaters don't stop at cheating. They escalate. Once they're caught, they go through phases: denial, begging, manipulation, anger, threats. They will cycle through every emotion in the book to try to reel you back in, not because they love you, but because they hate losing control. I had to remind myself of that daily. There were moments when the constant harassment wore me down. Moments when I thought, Maybe if I just talk to her one more time, she'll stop. But then I remembered. She didn't respect me when she had me. Why would she respect me if I took her back? The final scene. The final straw came when she showed up at my mother's house. Not mine, my mother's. My mom called me and said, "Your ex-wife is sitting on my porch, crying and begging me to call you." I drove over, and sure enough, there she was. Makeup running, clothes disheveled, looking like she'd been through a tornado. She jumped up when she saw me and said, "Adrian, please, I can't do this without you." I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You should have thought about that before Spectrum and Duke Energy became your new best friends." She fell to her knees, literally on the porch, screaming and sobbing. My mom stood there with her arms crossed, shaking her head. That was the day I told her, as calmly as I could, "This is the last time we're having this conversation. Stop calling me. Stop showing up. Stop embarrassing yourself. We are done." Aftermath. Since then, I've kept my boundaries strong, changed my number, blocked her on everything, and made sure my family knew not to let her in. She eventually fizzled out, probably moved on to the next poor soul who thinks he's her knight in shining armor. As for me, I've been rebuilding. I've thrown myself back into my career, into my hobbies, into the things that actually make me feel alive. And let me tell you, nothing feels better than peace. Closing thoughts. If part one was about catching her lies, part two was about surviving the fallout, the calls, the texts, the threats, the begging. It was all noise. And once I blocked out the noise, I realized how much brighter life is without her. Cheaters hate consequences. They'll do anything to avoid them. But when you stand firm, when you refuse to bend, eventually they have no choice but to face the mess they created. That's what I did. And that's why I'm here writing this with a clear head, instead of stuck in a cycle of chaos. Thanks again for letting me share this true story. If my story helps even one man out there recognize the signs and walk away before it gets worse, then it's worth it. Hello, true story. It's Adrian Mackey again. I told you I'd follow up, and this time I want to make something crystal clear. I don't care about my ex, not one bit, not about her tears, not about her begging, not about her "I'll take a bunch of pills" theatrics. Nothing. I used to think indifference was impossible. When you marry someone, build a life with them, dream about having kids with them, you assume that even if things fall apart, some piece of you will always care. But I learned something important. Betrayal has a way of killing off every ounce of affection. The day I saw Spectrum and Duke Energy in her phone, whatever part of me cared about her died. Call it heartless if you want, I call it survival. She means nothing now. People ask me if I miss her. Nope. Do I wish her well? Not even a little. If she's out there miserable, that's between her and her reflection in the mirror. If she's happy, it doesn't move me one way or the other. She simply doesn't matter. When she calls me, I don't answer. When she texts, I don't reply. If she showed up crying again, I'd step over her like a puddle on the sidewalk. That's how much I don't care anymore. Heartless? Maybe, but free. Some might say that makes me heartless. Fine, I'll take that label proudly, because being heartless is what keeps me free. Caring about someone who proved they never cared about you, that's the real prison. My ex made her choices. She wanted to act like her side dudes were just customer service reps from utility companies. Then she can live with the fallout. I'm not here to console her, rescue her, or play the role of the forgiving husband. She lost that privilege. The truth is simple. At the end of the day, I can sum it up like this. I don't hate her. I don't love her. I don't care about her. That's the trifecta of true indifference. And honestly, it feels better than love ever did, because love with her came with lies, manipulation, and humiliation. Indifference comes with peace. So, to anyone out there wondering if I'll ever take her back or if I secretly still care, let me end the suspense. Absolutely not. My ex could vanish tomorrow, and my life would go on without missing a beat. That's where I stand. Heartless, maybe, but free, absolutely.